Okay, before anything, let me promise you that this topic is not as difficult or as tasteless as it might sound like. Organizational governance systems. Stick with me in this entire video and you will understand what we are talking about. Welcome to pmclounge.com, and this topic is basically out of the standard for project management. Your PMBOK guide 7th edition, it's divided into two parts, the standard for project management and the PMBOK guide 7th edition itself. You should know topics of the standard for project management as well if you are preparing for the PMP exam. And we have created videos on those topics. The second link in the description will take you to an entire playlist. Do check it out. And the first link is going to take you to an article on this topic over at our official website pmclounge.com. So if you would rather read about this topic, then check the first link out. Second link, the entire playlist of all the videos that you should watch if you want to understand the standard for project management, which you must if you are preparing for your PMP exam. All right, that being clear, that being said, let's get started and understand what exactly organizational governance systems mean. So in order to ensure that you don't find this topic difficult or tasteless, we will take baby steps. We will first understand what exactly is governance. So governance is an enabler. When you read the word governance, you need to understand that it is basically enabling something. Governance focuses on who makes the decisions, that is decision rights and authority structures. So your organization should definitely have this, and not just your organization. You will understand later on that even projects should have authority structures and should clearly define who are the decision maker, how decisions are made. So what is the logic behind or the rationale behind taking decisions, right? So how decisions are made, that is the processes or procedures that are followed when taking decisions, and collaboration enablers, that is trust, flexibility, and behavioral controls. All of this makes up your governance, right? This is what governance focuses on. Now governance, it can operate at different levels, like governance of organizations, which is what we are talking about today, governance of portfolio management, program management, project management, right? You can have governance of these as well. Remember, what governance is who takes the decisions, how decisions are made, and collaboration elements. So these are applicable to project, portfolio, program management as well. These are applicable to individual portfolios, programs, and projects as well. So this is how governance is very, very important. When you define governance, it also means that you're defining the accountability of decision makers, because you have your governance, you have your authority structures in place. With authority comes accountability. So you know who are the people that are accountable for decisions. All right, so now that we know what governance is, let's take another step ahead and let's try to understand what organizational governance is. And it should be simple to understand now that we know what governance is. You just talk about governance at an organizational level. That's what organizational governance is. So it is a structured way to provide control, direction, and coordination through people, processes, policies to meet organizational, strategic, and operational goals. That is the textbook definition of what organizational governance is. Now, it is typically conducted by a board of directors. So, you as a project manager in your organization or a program manager, you are not supposed to be talking about organizational governance, because this is something that is conducted by the board of directors, and they ensure accountability, fairness, and transparency to its stakeholders, and it includes legal, regulatory, compliance, cultural, ethical, environmental, risk, social responsibility, and community functions. So these many functions is basically something that the board of directors are taking into account when they are talking about organizational governance. Now, organizational governance principles, decisions, and processes have an impact on the governance of portfolios, programs, and projects. And that is where you and I, as project managers, come into the picture. Because whatever principles, whatever decisions, whatever processes that the board of directors or the higher management they come up with, they define for their organization, that is going to have an impact on the portfolio, subsequent programs and projects. And we'll take a look at an example of this in the next slide. So let's go there. So in the United States, there is this Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002. And what it basically means is that management needs to certify, management is accountable, and they need to certify the accuracy of financial reporting of the organization. So management is directly held accountable for the accuracy of financial reporting, right? Because they need to certify it. Management needs to certify it. Now, when this is something which is applicable to all organizations out there, your portfolios, programs, projects, they will have a direct impact here, because now the rigor and frequency of reviews of such financial reporting will be very high, because management is directly held accountable, right? So this is how organizational governance impacts your portfolios, programs, and projects as well. And this was just one example of US. Different countries, they may have different laws and regulations that organizations need to adhere to. And when organizations are adhering to something like this becomes an organizational governance issue, right? This becomes part of your organizational governance. And that is how, so I hope you are able to see the relationship, the direct relationship that organizational governance has with how portfolios, programs, and projects are run within an organization. Quick reminder about the playlist section of our YouTube channel. Head over there. Every topic that you need to study for your PMP exam is neatly arranged in playlists. Do check it out. Everything's free. All right, so now let's talk about organizational governance systems. And we are basically taking another step ahead here. We've already talked about governance, we've already talked about organizational governance. Now, when we talk about systems, what we are talking about is basically a framework. And this framework can contain functions and processes that guide certain activities. In the previous example where we talked about financial reporting, that was an activity, right? The management was certifying the accuracy of financial reporting. That in itself is an activity. So the framework of how the management is going to do that, are they going to use a software and maybe an in-house built software? Are they going to use weekly team meetings? Whatever that system is, whatever that framework is, that is provided by the governance systems. Now these systems, they can include elements of control, oversight, decision making capabilities, value assessment. And when we talk about value assessment, I hope you remember the value delivery system. This is something that we talked about in our creating value video. It will be the third link in the description if you want to go over that video, because it is a fantastic video. It talks about what system for value delivery is. This is a portfolio, this is a program, and then you have projects, right? So I hope you remember the value delivery system. Your governance system, that works alongside the value delivery system to enable smooth workflows, manage issues, and support decision making. End of the day, projects are part of programs. They could be standalone as well, but let's assume that the project that you're working on is a part of a program, and this program is part of a specific portfolio, right? So what's happening here is, at an organizational level, if there is a financial reporting sort of governance that needs to be followed, then it will obviously trickle down to portfolio, to program, to project as well, right? So that is how governance system, that it works alongside the value delivery system. And this ensures smooth workflows, this ensures any issues and we are just taking example of financial reporting, it could be any other kind of organizational governance activity, right? So but when we talk about financial reporting, any issues related to financial reporting, any decisions that need to be made related to financial reporting or the project financials, right, all of that will be based on the governance system that the organization has. So that is how the organizational governance system works alongside the value delivery system. So all of this is great. We've talked about organizational governance systems, but we are project managers end of the day, right? And we are studying project management. So how do you translate all of this information for project governance in a project environment? So again, what governance systems are? They are basically providing an integrated structure, or you can say a framework. And this framework is helpful in evaluating changes, issues, and risks. And these changes, issues, risks, they are associated with the environment that your organization is operating in, or any component in the value delivery system. I hope you remember the value delivery system. This is the value delivery system, and the different components that you see in this system are portfolios, programs, projects, products, operations. These are all different components of the value delivery system. So any changes, any issues, any risks that are associated with any of these components, they are dealt with the integrated structure or the framework that is provided by the governance systems. Now, this can include portfolio objectives, program benefits, and deliverables produced by projects. So let's take an example of deliverables produced by projects, because like I said, we are project managers, we deal with projects. So the deliverables that your projects produce, if there are any changes, if there are any issues, if there are any risks associated with the deliverables, they will be dealt with the framework or the integrated structure that is defined by your governance systems. So what is project governance? It includes defining the authority to approve changes and make other business decisions related to the project. So when we talk about project governance, we are defining the authority, who is the person or who is the body that has the authority to approve changes or to make any business decisions that are related to the project. These business decisions again tie down to any changes, risks, issues that your project is facing, right? So that is how these two are basically connected. Project governance is aligned with the program and organizational governance, which is what I just said, because project is end of the day not something which is operating in independently, right? It is something that is operating within the organization, right, within the program and within the portfolio. It is possible that there are standalone projects out there, but end of the day, your organizational governance systems are going to be applicable to those independent projects as well. All right. So in conclusion, organizational governance systems, they define the way organizations work. And this, your organizational governance systems, this can be a differentiator between how organizations operate and what their innate culture is. That is the reason why two organizations are never the same. Now, organizational governance system, it overarches the project governance, which is what we saw in the previous slide also. You cannot have a project operating independently because there is an overarching organizational governance system at play at all times. So hence the way you deliver a project is heavily dependent on the organizational governance system. The way you work, the way you deliver a project, that is heavily dependent on it. This is also why being a project manager in one company, it can be entirely different from being a project manager in another company. One company might have a very stringent reporting requirements based on their organizational governance systems, while another company may have a fairly relaxed environment because they might not have, because their governance systems will be different from the previous one. Now, you cannot walk into an organization that uses agile and start delivering a project using waterfall or vice versa. That's true, right? Because it is heavily dependent on the way the governance systems are defined for an organization. So before we end this video, I would like you to ponder upon this and think through this. Do you know of an organizational governance element that defines the way you perform a certain project activity? Look at your projects. Look at all the activities that you as a project manager perform on a project. And can you figure out that these are certain activities, or this is one activity that I am doing and it is defined by the organizational governance that is at play in my organization? If you are able to figure that out, you've got this topic for sure. So that is all that we had in this video. I hope you got value out of it and were able to understand what organizational governance systems are and how it impacts your day-to-day functioning. Like, share, subscribe, check out our website pmclounge.com, the number one free PMP and project management resource. As always, if you like our work, consider contributing at pmclounge.com/contribute. Thank you.